Hi, my name is Brian Gardner with Crew Intercity, and I'm happy to bring you this video explaining some of the basic components of what it takes to do a successful Box of Love outreach. There are two primary purposes for the Box of Love program. The first is to equip our partner ministries, that's you, with another tool for training their members in ongoing evangelism and discipleship. We want to activate the church body through this outreach. But second, it's of course to share the gospel with unchurched families who are in need of food for a Thanksgiving dinner. That's the two primary purposes. You want to make sure you're doing both, sharing the gospel and equipping many members of your congregation. Now, you'll notice that I didn't say that the goal is to give out lots of food. That is not the goal of the Box of Love outreach. There are plenty of places that people can get a turkey, get a Thanksgiving dinner, get assistance if they need it. Our goal is to equip the church through training and to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is a very important thing to make sure that you are on the same page with that goal or those two goals, because if you aren't, this program might not be right for you, and that's okay. Our ultimate goal is for this outreach to be able to see many families that were once hopeless and desperate be transformed by the love of Jesus, folded into a church, and discipled in their faith. The primary ministry begins when the box of love is empty. There are 8 primary components to the box of love outreach. First, you're going to identify the families that you're going to serve. Then you're going to plan your outreach with your team. You're going to train your team and other volunteers who are going to help you do the outreach. And then you're going to come and help pack the boxes and get them picked up and taken back to your church or towards the outreach. Then you're going to deliver the boxes. And then you're going to follow up. Now, part of follow up includes the final 2 steps, which is to begin to disciple families and help hopefully fold them into your church, but also to report back to Crew. And that report is very important because it's how we track our numbers and continue to make sure we can offer this as a free resource to all of our church partners. Now, the first thing you want to do is identify families. There are 3 main things you're looking for when you're identifying these families. It should be people who are unchurched. This, of course, means, unfortunately, you can't help Sister Lucy, that 78-year-old senior who is a widow now and she's struggling to get food. This, unfortunately, is not for her. It's also not for that young family who, mother and father, several kids, but dad just lost his job and they're struggling right now to really put food on the table. My heart goes out to those people, and your church should definitely help them. But this box of love is not designed for those people. It's designed for those who are unchurched. So that's going to be either a person who you're just now meeting in the community and you have through conversation realized they don't know who Jesus is, or it's going to be a family who maybe has stepped their foot in the church. They're here one Sunday, gone 3, come back around, and you've been trying to figure out a way to connect with them and move them closer to Jesus. This might be a tool for them as well. You also want to identify families. So what we mean by families is really 4 more people in the household. There's a significant enough amount of food that you don't want to give it to individuals or even couples, but families. And then finally, they should really be in need of the food. So someone who can easily buy their Thanksgiving dinner, maybe buy one for you and buy one for themselves, that's not who this is targeted at. So they want to kind of meet all 3 of those criteria. Now, where do you meet these people? There's a couple of options. One is it can be through referrals. And so people in the church, as you put the word out, can say, hey, my neighbor fits that description. Hey, my uncle fits that description. I know a family down the street that fits that description. That's one way. A second way is through what you're already doing in the church. So let's say you had a vacation Bible school this summer or a back to school event. If you've got a prayer ministry or a food pantry, whatever it might be, where you're already connecting with people in the community, you can see if they fit the profile to be a recipient of a box of love. And finally, you can connect with other organizations in the community. So you might reach out to your local school and connect with the social worker to see if there are families who might be in need. And you can follow up with those families to see if they'd be interested in receiving a box of love. So there's lots of different options at how, but you want to begin to collect those names, phone numbers, and addresses of the families that you're going to be able to serve so that you can know how to request the appropriate number of boxes. Once you've identified the families, the next step is to plan your outreach, which might seem like a simple task. We just pick a box, we deliver it to someone's home, and we're done. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. Delivering boxes means you need to ask yourself a lot of questions. How many boxes do we really have capacity for? Who's going to be the volunteers that deliver these boxes? Who's going to be dedicated to praying over the boxes and staying at the church, maybe and praying for all the volunteers on the outreach? Who's going to be in charge of keeping track of all the families who are getting boxes, staying in communication with them so they know when we're coming, so they'll actually be home? Who's going to be responsible for making sure everyone gets trained in order to share the gospel? Who's going to do the follow-up reports that are required? All of these are questions that'll be sent to you. This very information that I'm covering is attached to the email you received. And as you begin to build your plan, we'll actually be scheduling a meeting with you. That information was also in the email, so that in that meeting, we can get a chance to review your plan. You can ask questions. We can discuss it in more detail. Our goal is not to put a burden on you, but it's to make sure you have all the skills you need to be successful. And one of the most important parts of that is going to be putting together your team, which we'll talk about in the next section. All right, you're about halfway there. Congratulations on getting this far and putting together your plan, but we're still missing an important ingredient, the people. You definitely do not want to try and do this outreach on your own. I guarantee it's a bad idea. So as you're gathering your team, deciding who's going to help you deliver these boxes, follow up and connect with families, a very important aspect to consider is how will we train these people to be able to effectively share the gospel? Because remember, gospel sharing is really the most important part of this entire outreach. Now, you've got two options. I'm strongly biased to option number one. I think you should come to our evangelism training. We host a training that's going to be 9 to 1 on a Saturday. You'll have the date in plenty of advance time. In fact, I think it's right there at the bottom of your screen now. Put it on your calendars. That training usually sees about 100 people attend, so there's great energy in the room. And we cover all the tools and skills they need to effectively share the gospel with this Box of Love outreach. We include how to share using a gospel track. We help people know how to prepare their hearts to share, how to pray in order to be able to share, how to use the gospel bead bracelet, which is the tool we use to share the gospel with children. The transition, which is maybe the toughest part from sharing the box to actually sharing Jesus. We cover all of those things and get a chance to go out into the streets, into the community, and actually practice sharing the gospel. And we have found that many of the participants in that training, this is their first time ever sharing their faith with anybody, and it's a transformational experience. Now, there is option two. If you say, hey, Brian, that date doesn't work, that time doesn't work, whatever it is, I think I can do it better. That's fine. But you'll want to make sure that you have all those same components, how to use a track, how to pray, how to prepare, how to make sure you know how to transition. In fact, we'll want to go over that with you when you meet with us one-on-one to just discuss that plan and help give you any pointers or tips or things that we found as best practices. Because the goal is not whether you do the training or whether we do the training. The goal is to make sure that the people are equipped so that the gospel goes forward and lives are saved and transformed. Now, as you prepare to do that, again, you'll have to make that tough decision, but you already know which date I'm pushing to. You can decide that with your team and let us know how you feel. All right, we're about halfway there. I know you're getting excited. The next step is to pack and pick up the boxes. The packing and picking up process is very smooth here. We've gotten really good at it. It actually happens over the course of 3 days. So the week before Thanksgiving, that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is when we will pack the boxes. It all happens over those 3 days. And we require that every church send at least one volunteer to one of those shifts in order to help us get everything packed up. That's pretty much it for that step. More details will be coming in your email. All right, let's get into step 5, delivering the boxes. The delivery is kind of the most important part. It gets you to the place where the box actually gets from your hands into the hands of a family that's going to be receiving this box. And you're going to be blessing them and sharing the gospel. The most important part I always talk about in delivery is making sure you have enough people. A delivery will take 35 to 45 minutes if it's done well. You might say, Brian, that's just way too long. There's a separate video attached to your email that actually walks through an entire process. So you want to drive to the first person's home. You want to make sure before you drive, you give them a phone call and say, hey, I'm on my way. Just want to make sure you're going to be there and available. A reminder, definitely going to get a chance to deliver this great box, but also share the gospel. You're going to want to pray over the box when you arrive, ring the bell, get in there, and then have some conversation. You want to build up, but then you want to transition into the gospel, and a quality gospel presentation takes about 20 minutes. So that whole process could be easily 45 minutes. And so as you're preparing for that, you want to plan on making sure that there's enough time for each person to deliver boxes to their assigned families. Now, we always strongly, strongly recommend that you go in pairs of 2 when you're delivering. At least one person should be trained and fully equipped and ready to share the gospel. But I recommend both are trained because then they can tag team the conversation, or there might be an additional person there who can get into a conversation with that second person. The kids might show up and they need the gospel heard using those gospel bead bracelets or some other material that you might have. And so the most important part is making sure we have enough people to deliver the boxes we were requesting. For example, if you say, I would love to deliver 12 boxes, great. Well, 12 boxes means that you're going to have 12 35 to 45-minute visits. That's not realistic for just one pair of people. I usually would say that in a given afternoon, every pair of 2 can really only deliver up to 3 boxes. 3 boxes for a pair of 2 people. So that means you would need for your 12 boxes at least, right? Go ahead and do some math. You're thinking about it, figuring it out. You need at least 4 pairs or 8 total volunteers. That's just for 12 boxes. There are some people who want to request 20 or 30 boxes. But if you're a new ministry, we'll probably cap you around 10 or 15 boxes, kind of at the max, depending on the plan that you're able to show us. Now, one important thing to note as you're planning this delivery, the turkey is frozen. It's meat. And so you don't want to plan on doing your deliveries on Sunday after church and you've got nowhere to put the 10 frozen turkeys that you just requested. So that's just something to think about as you're building your plan. Congratulations, you have successfully delivered a box. You've trained, you've planned, you've thought about it, you executed. Great job. Now the real work begins. Follow up is probably the most difficult part of this entire process because it's really exciting when you're going through the process of planning and training and getting ready. But once you deliver that box, it's easy to forget about that person, move on, get into the Christmas holiday. Now it's the new year and they have not heard back from you. So effective follow up is going to mean having a plan in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. Family doesn't get forgotten about. Now we use a strategy called embracing families. What that means is you'll actually partner one of your members along with a family. Often it's effective if it's one of the people who delivered the box, but sometimes that's not always the case. That person then becomes responsible for checking in with the family on an ongoing basis. I always say at least once a week by maybe a text message, a phone call, a check in, at least once a month, maybe in person, a visit to their home, inviting them out to the church, figuring out a way to serve with them. Hey, I just want to stop by and help you rake those leaves, help tutor your kids. I want to invite you out to the grocery store. I know you're not able to drive right now, and so you can ride with me to the grocery store. Whatever it is, lots of ideas. But the idea is just to put that plan in place before the box is delivered. So the Thanksgiving is going to be on Thursday, the 27th. So maybe you have a plan that says on Thursday, the 27th, we're going to deliver the box, but then we're going to invite those families to a church dinner that's going to happen Saturday night before the Sunday service. We'll invite them back to church Sunday, but they will maybe come, maybe not, depending on where they are in their walk or how they feel about God at this point. But then also we're going to have a prayer meeting where we just have a stop by for prayer. I'm going to make sure we invite them out to that. Maybe we're doing a Christmas party situation already at our church. We're going to make sure they get an invite to that. Also, 2 weeks, 1 week after the box, whoever delivered the box should be making a phone call just to check in, offer prayer. 2 weeks after that, they should go back for a follow-up visit. I'm just making stuff up, but you want to have a clear plan, and we can discuss that in our meeting, what your plan looks like, and tell you more about how the Embracing Family strategy might be right for your church. Okay. Step 7 really plays right into step 6, the follow up, and it's about discipling people and beginning to try and fold them into your ministry. What that looks like is just, again, having a plan. So if somebody says, yes, I would love to accept Christ into my life, don't be surprised. Have a plan. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Here is the next step or steps that our church has designed to help ensure that you have a smooth transition, that you learn as much as possible, and that you feel supported by our church and by me. And so by having a plan like that, you're able to begin to cover new member materials if that's what your church does, or have a process to get them connected with a ministry or connected with an individual discipler, someone who, again, is going to be responsible to follow up with them, pray with them, go over an initial Bible study. Maybe they just read the book of John together and they're able to ask questions and things like that. So having a plan for how you're going to disciple is super important. Congratulations, you've made it to the end. You've trained and planned and prepped. You've packed, you've delivered the boxes. You're following up with the families. The final step is to write a follow-up report, which will be due in early December, back to crew. Now that report will help us understand what happened on your outreach. How did it go? What things went well? What things maybe didn't go so well? And that'll help us help you continue to improve your outreach and your ability to reach your community. One important part of this is going to be you writing a testimony, and we'll explain more about that in our meeting, but it includes 3 important details: who you shared the gospel with, what tools you used in order to share the gospel, and what was the result of that gospel sharing opportunity. That's written from your point of view. You don't need to interview somebody or anything like that. You'll just say, I shared with Sally and Jonathan, married couple, they had 3 kids. I shared using the gospel booklet that you guys included, the Knowing God Personally booklet, and the result is that the wife actually gave her life to Christ. The husband's still thinking about it, and one of the oldest kids gave their life to Christ as well. We're going to be following up with the family and inviting them to church. Very simple. You're going to probably have a lot of questions after this video, and that's okay. Remember to click that link and schedule your appointment so that we can go over all those questions, review your plan, and get you on the road to being a Box of Love expert. God bless you, and you have a great day.